Welcome to The Debate. And for this special edition, I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming you to Vox Orthodoxa. This is our dedicated space where we take the ancient, often dust-covered texts of the Eastern Christian tradition, blow off a millennium of history, and, well, see if the machinery underneath still works for the modern soul.
And frankly, given the state of the modern soul, burned out, anxious, and perpetually distracted, yeah, we might need to stop looking for simple hacks and start looking for a complete overhaul.
I couldn't agree more. Today, we are cracking open Volume 4 of the Philokalia. We're focusing specifically on two 7th century heavyweights, Thalassios the Libyan and Hesychios of Sinai. Now, I know our listeners might hear 7th century monks and, they expect this abstract, dry theology. But what we actually found in these texts are essentially technical manuals for cognitive restructuring.
It is surprisingly clinical. Yeah. You have these detailed breakdowns of how a thought becomes an obsession, how the environment triggers depression, and the mechanics of addiction. I mean, it's psychology before psychology even existed.
Exactly. So the central question we are debating today is one of strategy. We all want a peace. We all want to escape the anxiety loop. But how do we do it? I will be arguing the position of Thalassios the Libyan. My stance is that the path to peace is found through structure and discipline. Thalassios calls this infraner, essentially active self-restraint. To heal the mind, you have to aggressively gatekeep what enters the senses. You have to change the environment to save the soul.
And I will be taking the side of Hesychios of Sinai. My argument is that changing the environment is, well, it's often a trap, or at least a luxury. You can lock yourself in a soundproof room and still be tormented by your own mind. Therefore, the path to peace is inner awareness and connection. Hesychios calls this trezvia, or watchfulness. It's an internal mystical vigilance that relies not on willpower or walls, but on the invocation of the name of Jesus to transform how we process thoughts, regardless of where we are.
It's the battle between building an external fortress and training an internal sentry. Let's get into the positions. I'll start.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. My argument is rooted in Thalassios the Libyan's work, specifically his sentries on love, self-control, and life in accordance with the intellect. My premise is simple, really. Our modern anxiety is a result of input toxicity. We are addicted to sensory stimulation. Thalassios provides a definition of sadness that is it is absolutely devastating in its accuracy for the year 2026. He says, sadness is the lack of pleasure.
That sounds a little reductive at first glance. I mean, sadness can be grief. It can be chemical loss.
Well, but stick with the mechanism he's describing regarding the passions. Thalassios argues that we have trained our souls to expect constant gratification, constant dopamine, constant validation, constant comfort. We feel entitled to it. And when that supply is cut off, when the phone battery dies, when the promotion doesn't come, when the air conditioning breaks, we don't just feel disappointed, we crash. We call it anxiety or depression, but Thalassios identifies it as the withdrawal symptoms of a pleasure-addicted soul.
So you're saying we aren't actually sad in a meaningful way, we're just going cold turkey on our preferences?
In many cases, yes. We have conditioned the mind to follow the senses. And because the problem is input, the solution has to be structural. Thalassios writes in his 2nd century, verse 10, "Close the senses in the fortress of stillness, so that the mind is not dragged toward their lusts." Note that word, dragged. The mind, the intellect, is supposed to be the CEO. But if the senses are left unguarded, they stage a coup. They drag the mind into the mud of the world. My position is that you cannot just think your way out of this. You have to physically stop the flow. You must practice infranade. You have to turn off the notifications. You have to restrict the food, the media, the noise. You build a wall so the mind can finally breathe.
It's a compelling, almost military approach. It appeals to that part of us that wants to take charge. But here is where I and Hesychios of Sinai have to push back. I'm drawing from his text on watchfulness and virtue. The problem with the fortress model is that the enemy is already inside the gates.
How so? If I cut off the source, the enemy starves, does it not?
Not if the enemy is your own memory and imagination. Hesychios argues that stress begins as a logismos, a single thought. It's a subtle suggestion. You can be in a monastery, in total silence, or on a solitary retreat in the mountains, and a thought pops up. What if I fail? Or, that person insulted me 10 years ago. If your defense relies entirely on external silence, you are defenseless against your own internal noise.
But surely a quiet environment makes those thoughts easier to manage?
Not necessarily. Sometimes silence just amplifies them because there is nothing to distract you from the horror of your own uncluttered mind. Hesychios uses the metaphor of the mind as a gatekeeper holding a lantern. A thought arrives like a stranger at the door. The error isn't that the stranger arrived. The error is that we invite him in for tea. We engage with the thought. We spin narratives around it. Hesychios' solution is trezvia, watchfulness. It is a continuous, moment-by-moment monitoring of the heart. The cure isn't gritting your teeth and blocking out the world. It is saying yes to the presence of God precisely when the thought arrives. It's a reliance on the Jesus prayer to break the cognitive loop. It's softer, more mystical, and, frankly, more portable than your fortress.
I think we're setting up a clear distinction here. I'm arguing for prevention through environment, starving the beast. You're arguing for intervention through awareness, taming the beast. Let's move into the core debate, because I want to challenge this idea that awareness is enough for a regular person living in the chaos of a modern city.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's look at the anatomy of stress and sadness again. I want to double down on Thalassios' psychological insight regarding desire. He says, "He who overcomes the love of the body overcomes sadness." Now, for our listeners, love of the body in this context, it doesn't just mean vanity or exercise. It means an obsession with our material status, our comfort, and our physical safety.
It's what the internet calls main character syndrome.
Precisely. The modern city dweller is chronically stressed because they are trying to control variables that are, well, uncontrollable. We want the glory of men. We want the perfect career arc. We want to be perceived a certain way. Thalassios is proposing a radical, almost stoic detachment. If you stop caring about the outcome, if you stop needing the pleasure of affirmation, the anxiety evaporates. You remove the fuel, the fire goes out. It's simple thermodynamics of the soul.
It's simple on paper, but is it effective for someone who's actually suffering? That kind of detachment can feel incredibly cold. I mean, telling someone in the middle of a panic attack to just stop caring about your comfort, that's terrible advice. It feels inhuman.
It's not stop caring. It's reorder your loves. It's realizing that your anxiety is a signal that you have placed your hope in something fragile.
Fair. But Hesychios offers a nuance here that I think is more practical and compassionate. He argues that nature abhors a vacuum. You cannot just empty the mind of desire or sadness. If you create a void by suppressing your feelings, something else will rush in, and usually it's something worse, like bitterness or pride. The mind must be filled.
Filled with what?
Light. Hesychios writes extensively that the devil, or if you prefer, the forces of entropy and chaos, attacks the mind directly. And this is a crucial distinction for mental health. Hesychios suggests that your anxious thoughts are often not yours. They are an assault. They are external data packets trying to hack your system.
That's a very compassionate reading. It removes the guilt. You aren't anxious because you're a bad Christian or a weak person. You're anxious because you're under siege.
Exactly. It changes everything. If the thought, "I am worthless," is an attack rather than a truth, I don't need to analyze it. I don't need to detach from it logically, which is exhausting. I need to shine a light on it. He says the mind is the gatekeeper. When a dark thought comes, the response isn't a stoic, "I don't care." The response is an active call for backup. You use the name of Jesus. You don't fight the thought with your own logic, because your logic is already compromised by the anxiety. You fight it by turning your attention to a higher power. It's relational.
I see the appeal of that. It's less lonely. But I have to bring us back to the reality of the environment. You talk about shining a light, but Thalassios would argue, how can you see the light if you are standing in a swamp? He uses this incredible metaphor of the marriage between the mind and the senses.
I assume this isn't a happy marriage?
It's a disastrous one if not managed. He warns that the senses can betray the mind. I mean, think about the modern algorithm TikTok, Twitter, 24-hour news. These are engineered weapon systems designed to hack that marriage. They bypass your intellect and go straight for the sensory dopamine receptors. Thalassios writes, as fragrances cannot be seen in mud, so the fragrance of love is not found in the soul that holds on to evil.
Fragrances cannot be seen in mud. That is a vivid image.
It implies a physical necessity. You cannot smell the fragrance of peace no matter how much you pray the Jesus prayer if you are waist deep in the mud of a toxic internet comment section. You physically have to get out. You have to sever the connection. My argument is that trezvia watchfulness is impossible without infranura discipline. You are asking people to meditate in the middle of a nightclub. Thalassios says, leave the club first.
But I'm not convinced that leaving the club is always an option, though. What about the single mother working 2 jobs? What about the person living in a noisy apartment complex who can't afford a silo retreat? What about the person whose job requires them to be on social media? If peace requires controlling your environment, then peace is a luxury good for the rich.
That's a harsh critique.
But it's true. If Thalassios is right, only monks and millionaires could be happy. And this is why Hesychios trezvia is superior for the modern age. It offers portability. Hesychios describes watchfulness as breathing. You don't need a monastery, you need a chest.
Walk me through the mechanics of this. How does a regular person do this while, say, stuck in traffic or dealing with a screaming toddler?
Hesychios uses the image of the spider and the fly. It's a bit visceral, but stick with me. The spider sits perfectly still in the middle of the web. It doesn't chase the flies, it waits. When a fly, which represents a thought, touches the web, the spider knows immediately. It rushes out and deals with it before the fly can tear the web.
So the goal is reaction time.
Exactly. This is cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, but, 1400 years early. You stand guard at the door of your heart. You are in traffic. A car cuts you off. The thought comes, this guy is an idiot, I hope he crashes. That is the fly. Most of us let the fly buzz around until we are in a full rage. Trezvia means you catch it the millisecond it touches the web. You say, I see you. You are a thought of anger, and then you kill it.
And how does Hesychios say you kill it?
You smash it against the rock. And for Hesychios, the rock is the name of Christ. You replace the narrative of my boss is an idiot with the invocation, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. You break the cognitive loop with a spiritual anchor. You don't argue with the thought, you displace it.
That is undeniably powerful. It's active. It gives the listener something to do other than just trying to relax. But I want to zoom out for a second. Why are we doing any of this? Is it just so we can be more productive workers? Or is there a higher goal?
Well, in the Philokalia, the goal is never just wellness. It's not about being a more efficient cog in the machine.
Right. Thalassios is very specific. The goal is dragoste, love. He writes, he who has acquired love endures without disturbance the annoyances caused by enemies. This hit me hard. We usually think the proof of a healed soul is that you feel zen or floaty. Thalassios says no. The proof is that you can look at the person who is actively ruining your day and feel love for them.
That is an incredibly high bar. That's not just wellness, that's sainthood.
It is the summit. If my peace falls apart because my spouse makes a snarky comment, I don't have peace. I just have temporary quiet. Thalassios challenges us to use infernari to build a reserve of patience. We restrict our own pleasures so that we aren't so fragile. When we aren't addicted to comfort, we aren't threatened by discomfort. And when we aren't threatened, we can love.
I agree that love is the goal, but I think the vehicle to get to that love isn't just toughness or discipline. It's humility. This is Hesychios' masterstroke, and it's the antidote to our modern burnout. He argues that we are anxious primarily because we are proud.
Connect those dots for me. How does pride cause anxiety?
Pride is the delusion that we are in control. We think we can fix our lives, fix our families, fix the world, fix the economy. That burden is crushing. It breaks us. Hesychios suggests that the turning point comes when we realize our helplessness. When we admit, I cannot guard my own mind. I cannot fix this. I am weak.
So surrender is the strategy.
Yes. but not a passive, defeated surrender. It's a strategic surrender to a higher power. Hesychios says that without the continuous call to Jesus, all our sweat, all your infernate and discipline is in vain. It's the difference between rowing a boat against a hurricane and putting up a sail. Thalassios is teaching us how to build a sturdy boat, which is important, but Hesychios is teaching us how to catch the wind. If you don't have the wind of grace, you're just a very disciplined person drifting in the ocean.
That is a beautiful way to put it. And honestly, as we debate this, I think we're arriving at a synthesis. As I read Volume 4, I realized that Thalassios and Hesychios are not actually contradicting each other. They're different stages of the same construction project.
I agree. You can't fill a cup that is full of holes.
Right. My position, Thalassios' position, is about patching the holes. Infringement creates the space for peace. We need to tidy the house of the soul. We need to sweep out the digital noise, the lust for status, the addiction to outrage. We need to build the walls of the fortress. You can't pray effectively if you're doom scrolling until 2 a.m.
And my position, Hesychios' position, is about what you do once the walls are up. Trezvia is what fills that house with light. If you build the fortress but leave the inside empty, you haven't built a sanctuary, you've built a prison. You need the warmth of the prayer, the gentleness of the connection to God.
So let's distill this for the listener. For the regular person living in a city in 2026, the Vox Orthodoxa prescription is twofold. First, be practical. Cut out the noise. Be ruthless with your environment. Don't let the mud of the world dictate your mood. That's Thalassios.
And second, be spiritual. Stand guard at the door of your heart. Don't let every thought set up camp in your living room. Identify the flies of negativity and smash them against the rock of the name. Treat your mind like a sacred space that deserves protection, not because you are strong, but because you are loved. That's Hesychios.
It really is a love letter from the past to the anxious modern heart. It tells us that our struggle is not new. These men were fighting distraction and anxiety in the desert 1,400 years ago.
And they won. That's the encouraging part. They found a way through.
Indeed. We hope this debate has given you some tools to build your own fortress and light your own lamp. There is more in the Philokalia than we could cover today, but this is a start.
Thanks for watching until the end. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it. It helps me out a lot. If you're new here, hit subscribe and the notification bell to be notified when I post next time. See you soon!